Okay, so now we're live. I mean, thank you so much, Sharon, for joining me today. And
You're so
for
welcome.
absolutely, thank you. So, for the ones who don't know me, I just a quick perspective. I used to be the CEO of Mercer in Switzerland, and as a CEO, you are, especially if you are a woman, it is expected all suddenly that all the ally consideration will be solved like magic happens. And I think that, and me working for Mercer, and Mercer being heavily, really engaged and with everything which is around women, diversity, but also with male allyship. When Sharon and we've met, I thought that would be my perfect guest. So, I want to show some numbers before we dive into uh, Sharon's approach. And I mean, here are some numbers about gender inequality. And we see that, if we have these statistics or we take the numbers, I'm sorry, we have an ambulance here driving by, or we take the numbers from McKinsey, from Mercer, from Oliver Wyman, they all show that there is still a lot of work in front of or ahead of us. So maybe Sharon, let's dive into. I will leave the numbers here up for a few more seconds. Let's dive maybe in what brought you to this terrific topic.
What brought me to this terrific topic really started right at the beginning of my career
Mhm.
because the year that I graduated from college, the economy was in the tank. Really was not a good economic situation. And my degree did very little for me. And I ended up getting a job as a file clerk
Mhm.
at a sales promotion agency. And so what happened was that the CEO of the company became an ally to me. We we were simpatico right from the start. And he saw a lot of potential in me, obviously. Otherwise, why would he be my ally?
Mhm.
So things progressed and I got promoted several times. And eventually I became the head of the division. And as head of the division, usually there's a profitability factor involved. And I was promised a percentage of the profit of the division.
Mhm.
And so when the money was distributed, I got a fraction of what was coming to me.
Mhm.
And so it was clear to me that he had betrayed me because he made a promise to me and he didn't keep it. And I was really devastated and I was traumatized because when you have an ally relationship that's built on trust, and especially when it's long lasting, that type of thing can be devastating. You
Mhm.
have so much invested in your career. Well, I don't know if he thought that I was going to roll over and take it, but guess who did not? I walked into his office, I took the check, I ripped it up into 1,000 pieces, I threw it in his face, and I said, "This is unacceptable. So do you think I got the money?" The answer is yes.
Good.
But after that, the relationship was shattered.
Mhm.
And it was at that moment that I said to myself, self, um, this is an example of the best and the worst. And I
Mhm.
vowed at that moment that I was going to change the complexion of the way that men and women reacted in the workplace.
Mhm.
And that's how it all started.
That is, this puts me back, throws me back. Some years ago, I had the opportunity already to sign a contract as a CEO. And for good sake, I had also a terrific male ally. And but the contract had not to be signed by him, but by his superior, an executive, C-suite executive, and I got a fraction. I mean, of the salary offered, and I recall telling him basically the same thing. I said to him, "You know what? I'm not going to accept that, because if I if I were a man, you would not dare offering me something like this." And
Exactly.
I got now after that the correction, but I didn't accept it. So, and the reason why it is so, so let me step back. What do you define as being an ally and a male ally? Could you share that with our audience?
I can. You know what I would like to, for people who are deeply interested in allyship and want to know more. I mean, of
Hmm.
course, we're going to talk about a lot today, but there's a book that I would recommend, and I took an excerpt from it. That's why I'm showing the book. It's by David Smith and Brad Johnson, and it's called Good Guys, and they have a great definition. So that's why I wanted to let you all know about it. I'm going to read it.
Hmm.
Male allyship is actively promoting gender fairness and equity in the workplace through supportive and collaborative personal relationships and public acts of sponsorship and advocacy intended to drive systemic improvements to the workplace culture. I thought that was a really good definition. It kind of deals with the whole picture of allyship and all that it involves, especially the fact that if you're an ally, a true ally, you attend to your own behavior,
Hmm.
but you take a more global view and look at the company overall and see how you can be an agent of change and what's going on in your environment and work to be an agent of change internally also.
I love that.
So that was an important addition to me.
Do you see some differences with male allyship depending on the age? I mean, are the younger men more towards naturally inclined to be natural allies, or is it? Do you see that all across the ages with men?
I would say that based on who I've encountered professionally, that first of all, what I've noticed is that male allies who are current allies and who are open to being better allies are
Hmm.
often men who had a strong female figure in their early life. For
Hmm.
example, let's say they had a working mother, they had a single parent household where it was just the mother.
Hmm.
They had powerful women, or they had sisters. I have found that these early experiences preclude men, make them predisposed to having more empathy for the female experience, and
Hmm.
gives them a um, a better view into what women experience on a day-to-day basis, and it makes them, like I said, more empathetic to the way women experience professionalism in their work life. Now, taking that a step beyond that, I would say that my experience has been that I've noticed that, especially among millennials and Gen Zers, that
Hmm.
they are more open to male allyship and female equality.
Hmm.
But, it runs the gamut. I mean, on the other hand, I've run into men who are much older than that, who are open and interested in female equity, gender equity.
Hmm.
So, I don't like to make a stereotype, because I say don't make stereotypes to male allies or to anybody interested in diversity and inclusion. But there are some clues that you can find about men and whether or not they're allies, want to be
Mhm.
allies.
Mhm. I know that my former peer, who is now today the CEO of Mercer in Germany, he has always been a fierce male ally, and always, I mean, and it is something that I always admired with him, because of his implication, dedication, helping other women. So I can relate to that very much. Also when I look at now, I'm obviously having or wearing today a little bit the hat of the former role I had as a CEO. When I look back, where I was very grateful for is that companies like Mercer, for example, were also demanding from investors to consider um, everything. I mean, to support women start. I mean, women CEOs, women creating startups, because this is where often women are really struggling, especially to get the funds to build their companies. And it's kind of interesting how the more you push as a large corporation and you make male investors really become aware of the importance to support women also with with their money, with their investments, that it is really helping everyone. I mean, investors as much as the startup creators. Did you
Well,
see that
there's a
too?
strong case for the business case for diversity, which I think you're alluding to.
Yes.
And McKinsey, for example, says that when women are treated in a more equitable fashion and they are, uh, able to exert senior leadership, that the company's profitability increases about 15%.
Mhm. Correct. Correct. So,
And
which shows again, I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean,
oh,
but
that's
which
fine.
shows the importance of diverse perspectives, because you're opening yourself up to new dimensions. You're opening yourself up to innovation, creation, new ideas, and also the way you're talking also and dealing and working with clients. And by the way, there are clients who are telling you very clearly, okay, guys, if you come up with and present your pitch and you're only guys, just know that you won't be considered.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's, I mean, among the consumer base and among the employees that are coming into the marketplace and into businesses right now, they're demanding that type of open
Hmm.
perspective to diversity and inclusion and to gender equity.
Hmm. Hmm.
And many of the people coming into the workforce now don't want to work for companies that don't hold that perspective.
Right. And you know what? And it still surprises me. I'm calling that lovingly the old boys club. Still, when you have students stepping out of school, sitting together, creating, having an idea, creating a company, they have a natural tendency just to look out, for their brother, for their peer. And because it's so easy, it's way easier to start something. And it demands still today, even from young men, quite a lot of gymnastic to say, okay, I like my body, but let me see if I cannot bring in a woman in it. And there I am trying to push to raise the awareness of young men that, okay, even if you want to work with your body, your student body, just see how you can bring in some other energy, female energy, also in the discussion. So the question I would have for you: what does um, or how can men be more aware of to be allies, or even to be better allies?
I would say that first of all, there are men who, as I said earlier, are more predisposed to wanting to be allies.
Mm-hmm.
And really, for me, I feel like perhaps it's a good idea to work with people who are open to that possibility. It is a journey,
Mm-hmm.
and you do have to be prepared to go on an ongoing journey where you continue to learn and grow and be open to new ideas and new possibilities. The other thing
Mm-hmm.
is that you need to be ready for self-awareness and the importance of being open to listening to your female colleagues and believing them. I'm sure you've heard stories of where men, for example, a man might be shocked to learn that there's sexual harassment going on in his workplace because he's never heard anything about it. And
Mm-hmm.
yet, when a female colleague comes in and tells him about it, he needs to believe her. And
Mm-hmm.
that would be the same for any other kind of feedback that she gave him, including feedback about him. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
important to do that. And what brings that brings me to the whole notion of active listening. We all have challenges listening. I mean, I do too. I work on my listening skills all the time,
Me too.
but especially when it comes to our coworkers. If you're thinking to yourself, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say to make myself look good in this conversation? Thinking about the grocery list that you have to attend to after work and a lot of other extraneous things, those are not active listening. So it's important to really focus on what your colleague is saying to you, your
Mm-hmm.
female colleague, any colleague for that matter. I mean, active listening is active listening. But as a male ally, listening is extremely important.
Do you see?
Do
I
you
mean, I'm
see?
playing a little bit now the devil's advocate. Um, have you encountered men who are making it up, looking like, behaving officially like being allies, but not necessarily being active listener? I don't say that they are necessarily bad people, but that the active listening side is not really there, or they hear something and say, okay, let me give it to HR, and they have to deal with that.
It's really a situation where, like I said, male allyship and the developing into a male ally is a journey.
Hmm.
And they may not be at that point where they've mastered the art of active listening. And the art of active listening has major benefits for any male and female. I mean, active listening is a major skill.
Hmm.
But have I run across men like that? Yes, I have. And like I said, they're early in their journey, or they may not be aware of where they stand with their awareness of microaggression and male privilege.
Good. That is
And
a
that
good.
may be the culprit.
Yes,
That may be the culprit.
that is true. Yeah, absolutely. So, what would you say to young women, but also women in general in corporate, how to spot your male ally?
It's not complicated really, because use your emotional intelligence. I mean, make active use of it. If you be a student of human behavior or male behavior, you can see clearly from the way that the way that a male colleague behaves. If he interrupts you, if he practices microaggressions, um, I mean, would you really? I mean, I really don't like when men call me dear or honey or sweetheart. If someone does that, are they aware? No.
Hmm.
If someone comments on your appearance and says to you, "Oh, you look fabulous in that dress today," do I really want him to say that to me? Do I really want to hear that? No.
Hmm.
I want to be looked at as a professional. If I'm in a room and he speaks over me or he takes credit for my idea, if he tells me that I need to smile more and that I sound shrill
Or be less aggressive.
or be less aggressive, right? Or if I'm married and he asks me when I'm going to have kids, or if he
Hmm.
makes remarks or jokes that are not that are demeaning. I mean, those are microaggressions, and those are clues that a man is not up to the task of being an ally just yet.
So
It's
what do you
not a woman's
do?
responsibility to educate a man to be an ally. The man has to come to it on his own.
So
So I would not convert people.
So what do you do as a young woman, an employee, female employee, and your direct manager, people manager, is acting this way?
You have to gauge what the situation is and how much feedback you can give them to keep it productive.
Hmm.
But I would say that the most important thing is to always keep it professional.
Hmm.
So you could say something to the effect of, when you take credit for my ideas during a meeting, it hurts my morale and it diminishes my professional efficacy. So that's an example of keeping it professional. Talk about how it affects your job, how it affects your performance,
Hmm.
how it affects your engagement. Keep it professional. I wouldn't say something that was more personal.
Right, right. I'm having one of my cats who is tuk, 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 who is expressing himself. Um,
Oh, okay. And that would be to somebody who doesn't really have a listening for the female experience.
That is true. That is true. That is true. How can you become a better listener? Because I mean, you alluded to it. It is not something which is born to us, which is given to us. It's often something that we need to learn, where we have to spend some years and experience also to adjust and to learn how to listen better. What would you say? What to do?
I think that the first way to start would be to remember that a conversation with another individual is about, obviously, communication,
Hmm.
and to take responsibility for your communication.
Hmm.
In other words, you have a point that you want to get across to another person. You want them to hear you.
Yes.
And that should guide you in terms of what you say and what you do.
Hmm.
If you don't listen to what the person is saying and close attention, how can you effectively communicate with them?
Hmm.
Probably you can. And that would apply to anybody, really.
I must.
The other
I
thing,
must. Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
oh, no, the other thing I was going to say is that in terms of focusing on the other person, Having a conversation with someone is not about you when they're talking. It's about
Mhm,
them.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And so obviously, with that thought in mind, you need to focus on what they're saying and get the information that they're sharing with you so that you can respond in an intelligent way and give them the space that they need to express themselves fully and authentically and transparently. Create a space for them that is safe when you do that. Psychological safety is very important in communication.
mhm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that the listening skills, I'm talking now for me, as most certainly has been my a very long life, a long journey, learning journey, and I'm still not finished. I think the more you advance in it, on this path of active listening, the more you get aware of how sometimes how clumsy, or that you could have done it, or I could have done it in a more elegant or more authentic uh, way. But I mean, the quality of listening, and because what you said is, it's not about you, it's about the other one.
Exactly, yeah. And, just making another point about the interchange in conversation and giving negative feedback. I just thought of something too, which is really important. When you're giving negative feedback to somebody, it's usually good when if you want to create a situation where they're going to hear you,
Hmm.
is to start with something positive.
Yes.
So, for example, let's say I'm a man, a male ally. I'm a male ally in training, okay? And I go to a meeting and I'm sitting around with my male colleagues and we're waiting for a couple of women to come in. And the conversation inevitably starts about one of the women that's coming in. And one of the men says, "Oh, if she wore makeup, she'd be dateable." And so, as a male ally, you know that that's not the thing to say.
Absolutely.
So, what would you say? Would you shoot the guy down and say something negative? Probably it would be more productive to say something positive. There must be something positive about this individual's leadership, otherwise he wouldn't be in that level meeting. So you could say something to him and like, John, I'm really surprised to hear that from you because I've always thought of you as such an authentic and great leader. Tell me more. Did you really mean that? And that gives him the opportunity to say, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that," and to recant or to change what he said.
That
So
is a
starting positive is a good way to go. Even if women are giving feedback to their boss and he's
Mhm,
not in an ally head, start with a positive.
mhm. Yeah, and you always say, start. I mean, put two to three positive points in your balance, so that you start with a positive deposit, and so that you can extract one or two points, but it still remains, positive in total, the sum, so that the person doesn't feel diminished. And I must say, in my case, if I would have heard a man say that, I would have tapped with my with my pen on the desk and say, "Okay, did I hear something here?" and but people knew me, on my way, on my very straightforward way, um, to talk to some of them, but I was allowed to do it also in my I was expected to do it also in my CEO role, and but when sometimes when I heard something which was kind of, not belonging where it needed to be, yeah, absolutely. I think it is a leadership responsibility that we have. Everyone, every single leader, is to make sure that people in our environment are being treated fairly and are respected. And that is
Exactly.
also, how should I say, a common theme which needs to come across the whole organization. And I recall the former CEO of Mercer, Julio Portalatin. He came one day to Germany, and we had a board meeting there, and he said to us, "Very easy. You have only the permission to hire a woman." So you had the man say, "Well, it's going to be pretty hard," and he said, "That is your problem. You will get only a green card from my side if you hire a woman, and you better find a terrific woman." And he was such a, how should I say, such a gem, such a treasure, because he lived male allyship to its highest degree, and or his highest degree, and
Right.
and the way he brought also today's Mercer CEO Martine Ferland, who is a woman, was absolutely exceptional, and also the way he allowed her to get into the role and to take over her responsibilities. And I think that there are so many beautiful cases of men helping and supporting other women in their growth, in their evolution as senior executives. And I must say, it is very, very inspiring to know that there are so many men who are really beautiful male allies. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm looking at the time. So tell me, I mean, if someone would like to contact you, what should they do? Because I mean, I think it's something. I mean, I must say, I find it very, very alluring, very great to know that there are women like you who are devoting their time and have this passion to talk with men and to show them the positive side. So, where can they find you?
Well, I mean, I'm easy to find on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Anybody who goes on LinkedIn, or you can simply send me an email. It's my first name and my last name at Gmail.
Excellent. Excellent. So, I mean, Sharon, I think we need to continue this discussion. This is an endless discussion, and it
It
was
is.
such a pleasure to have you today and here. And well, then I wish you, I mean, plenty of energy. Continue your good work, and see you
Thank
then
you.
soon. Thank
Thank you.
you.
It was a pleasure to be with you, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay. Yeah.